Hey folks, the anatomy of a hyperinflationary Great Depression. The most basic principle in understanding a hyperinflation is that it materializes quite suddenly out of the midst of a deflationary depression, not from a period of economic growth and prosperity, and is the result of a panicking central bank or monetary authority hyperinflating as printing or expanding the currency in order to fight the deflationary depression. It is a currency phenomenon, not an economic phenomenon. The printing of 4 to 5 trillion out of thin air in 2010 could trigger a global and then domestic, in that order, stampede out of the dollar, igniting a hyperinflationary Great Depression. And all of this could happen this year or, in any case, before the end of 2014. What adds to this terrifying scenario is that this has never in history happened to a world reserve currency widely held by almost every financial institution and central bank in the world. Defining the components of a hyperinflationary Great Depression. In terms of hyperinflation, there have been a variety of definitions used over the time. The circumstance envisioned ahead is not one of double or triple digit annual inflation, but more along the lines of a 7 to 10 digit inflation seen in other circumstances during the last century. Under such circumstances, the currency in question becomes worthless, as seen in Germany and in the early 1920s in Hungary, after World War II in the dismembered Yugoslavia of the early 1990s, and most recently in Zimbabwe. In some important definitions: deflation, a contraction in the money supply resulting in declining prices; inflation, an increase in the money supply by the politicians and monetary authorities resulting in rising wages and prices; hyperinflation, extreme inflation minimally in excess of 4-digit annual percentage change where the involved currency becomes worthless; recession, 2 or more consecutive quarters of contracting real inflation-adjusted GDP, where the downturn is not triggered by an extraneous factor such as a trucker strike or a 9/11 type crisis; depression, recession, where the peak to trough contraction in real growth exceeds $10. Great Depression, a depression where the peak to trough contraction in real growth exceeds 25%. Based on these definitions, there has been one Great Depression in the 1930s. Most of the economic contractions before that would be classified as depressions. All business downturns since World War II have been classified as recessions. 2 examples of hyperinflation. Weimar Republic. It was horrible, horrible, like lightning it struck. No one was prepared. You cannot imagine the rapidity with which the whole thing happened. The shelves in the grocery stores were empty. You could buy nothing with your paper money. That was quoted by Williams describing the German hyperinflation. The hyperinflation in Germany's Weimar Republic is along the lines of what likely will unfold in the United States. The early stages of the Weimar Republic hyperinflation were accompanied by a huge influx of foreign capital, much as had happened during the U.S. Civil War. During the first few months of 1923, prices climbed astronomically higher with no end in sight. The nation was effectively shut down by currency collapse. Mailing a letter in late 1923 cost 21,500,000,000 marks. The worthless German mark became useful as wallpaper and toilet paper, as well as for stoking fires. Unlike the untapped economic potential of the United States of 145 years ago, today's U.S. economy is languishing in the structural problems of the loss of its manufacturing base and a shift of domestic wealth offshore. It is mired in an economic contraction that is immune to traditional economic stimuli, as the U.S. government has attempted in recent decades to assuage electorate discontent with ever more expensive social programs, as the Federal Reserve has moved to encourage debt expansion as a remedy for a lack of real inflation-adjusted income growth. The eventual bankruptcy of the U.S. dollar was locked in. In today's environment, both central banks and major private investors know that the U.S. dollar will be a losing proposition. They either expect and or hope that they can get out of the dollar in time to avoid losses, or in the case of the central banks, that they can forestall the ultimate global economic crisis. Such expectations and hopes have dimmed markedly in the last 2 years, as the untenable U.S. fiscal condition has gained more public and global recognition. Zimbabwe. Hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, the former Rhodesia, was many times worse than it was in Weimar Germany. Zimbabwe went through a number of years of high inflation, with an accelerating hyperinflation from 2006 to 2009, when the currency was abandoned. Though through 3 devaluations, excess zeros repeatedly were lopped off of notes as high as 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. The cumulative devaluation of the Zimbabwe dollar was such that a stack of, okay, it's a 1 with 26 zeros behind it, $2 bills, and the peak of hyperinflation would have been needed to equal in value to what a single originally Zimbabwe $2 bill of 1978 had been worth. In early 2009, the governor of the Zimbabwe Reserve Bank indicated he felt his actions in printing money were vindicated by the recent near-identical actions of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Current economic and inflation conditions in America. The U.S. economy in late 2009 remains in a structural recession depression, where recessive recognition as of December 2007 became official. At the same time, due to extreme fluctuations in oil prices, where an oil price collapse eliminated oil-induced inflation pressures building at the time, consumer inflation experienced a brief and shallow dip into official year-to-year deflation through the October 2009 CPI. The current downturn, as reported, already is the longest and deepest business contraction since the first down leg of the Great Depression in the 1930s. Most of the better economic series are showing contractions of greater than 10% depression range, such as retail sales and industrial production, while others are showing contractions of greater than 25%. Such as new orders, durable goods, and various statistics indicating the level of housing activities. The evolving depression quickly will move to Great Depression status at such time as the hyperinflation hits, since that will be extremely disruptive to the conduct of normal commerce. Sorry for all the yammering today and all the videos, but I really want to share this stuff with you folks. It's really something to think about. Sadly, I've got a couple more to do. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.